Okie doke. All right, this is all stuff I should have taken care of before the stream even started, but how do I sound, guys? Can you see me? Can you hear me? And if so, please type yes in the chat. Ooh, sweet. 11 people so far. So yeah, sorry for the lack of content lately. I've taken kind of a break from YouTube over the last few months. I've shifted my focus elsewhere on a little other pet project of mine, which I do plan on sharing with you guys in a moment. Um, but otherwise, I hope you all have been doing very well. The purpose of this live stream is mainly just to overview current events, talk about Donald Trump, talk about how things are going rather swimmingly from a revolutionary point of view. Oh, the art's doing good. Thank you very much, comrade. And I'm actually going to show you guys that here in a second, the little pet project I've been on. But before we get into that, I've had a kind of a bit of writer's block lately, and I haven't really known what to make content about or videos about, especially with my recommendation feed being flooded with videos covering many a subject matter that I already see being touched up. I got halfway through writing the Gaddafi's Libya documentary before I just sort of stopped. And I mean, I have enough content for that alone to where I could legit, and I probably will just do this, just record myself and release like the first one, which covers events in Libya all the way up until like the early 1990s. From the founding of Gaddafi's Libya to the Lockerbie bombing to the experimental democracy that was transpiring within Gaddafi's Libya at the time. Shit, that's some awful stuff. But as I was saying, yeah, so I could get into that, and I've been doing good. It's good to hear from you guys. Good to see from you guys. But seriously, if you've got any ideas for content for me to produce, like now's the time to pitch it. Like if there's some subject matter you want me to look into and actually make like a proper video about, do an interview with Alexander McKay from the Marx Engels Lenin Institute. I'm gonna look that person up right now. McKay. All right, cool. So, oh, they even have a LinkedIn. I can hit them up on LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and keep that in a tab, and I will send them a message at a later date. Um, See about an Actually, I'm gonna open up a notepad so I can write this all down. All right. Seriously, pitch me ideas, guys. I want to start making content again. I'm serious. The only reason, well, aside from the writer's block, there's another major reason why I haven't produced anything lately, and we'll get into that in a moment. But for now, I'm gonna write this down. Alexander McKay, editor of M. Marxist Leninist Institute. Potential for interview. There we go. And we can do an interview live in that business. Mainly suggesting this as I've only started going to the gym, but could you do something about fitness? Sure. Make a video about health and fitness. Little off the cuff stuff. I'll do a little bit. It's not going to be a long video, but I feel like it would be worth it to cover the structural foundation of, working out and getting in shape. Man, working out, that's something I haven't done in a while. I'm so out of shape right now, guys. Literally, all I've been doing is pouring all my free time into finishing the first chapter of my graphic novel. And it's been so time consuming that I actually don't want to do it by myself anymore. Like, holy shit, you don't know. And I have developed a newfound respect for animators and comic book artists because 1 minute of 60 FPS animation is 1,440 frames that needs to be drawn and produced. So animating is exponentially more difficult, and there's a reason why it takes teams of animators to make cartoons. But I mean, even with comic books, you're dealing with still frames, like several panels of still frames at a time, but that's still very time consuming to draw. So You gotta have respect for the artist, the graphic novelist. There's a reason why it usually takes a team of like three or more people to produce most comic books, and that's something I've been getting into a lot lately as well. I've been going through the classic Marvel run. I've been reading into the old school Thor, old school Hulk comics. Um, that's another thing I've been doing a lot of lately, just partially for inspiration and my own enjoyment. Animation is hard for sure, even when it's 24. Oh, yeah, yeah. From what I can recall, the pay is dog shit for animators for the work that they. Oh, yeah, no. Animators are. It's a heavily exploited industry. Like, there's this great documentary that talks about it called Life After Pi. Tweeting your friend in the right soft. Yeah. So, Life After Pi is a documentary about how brutally and heavily exploited animators are, specifically in Hollywood for CGI, and how they could do like we are so heavily reliant on CGI for all of our special effects now. If you'll notice in any modern movie, honestly, the CGI has been going down the toilet. If you ask me, like the CGI effects from 30 years ago are on average better than the CGI that you see nowadays. And what they'll do is they'll have these animators, and they're given these quotas, like, and they have to meet these deadlines to finish these specific scenes before the deadline is met. And shit might get changed at the very last minute, so they could sink 70, 80 hours into producing this scene only for the director to say, nah, I don't like it, let's change it. And the movie's set to premiere in 2 weeks. Now you got to be pulling double shifts, no breaks, no time off, just so you can rush this scene out before the premiere because the directors decided last minute that they wanted to make this change. And not to mention, they have to travel a lot. Animators have to travel around the country for work. There is no union. They usually get laid off after these major projects are done. But yeah, there's a really compelling documentary about it called Life After Pi. I recommend it. But yeah, that's what I've been getting into. Um, Especially if it's been outsourced. Yeah, let me scroll up. Also, you can debunk some main mythologies of post-Soviet states and their lies to justify anti-communism. I would have to get into more specifics. The Peruvian, the glowing path. Yeah, you know what? I could do a video about the Shining Path and how they have done irreparable damage to the communist movement of Peru. Your older videos really shaped my views regarding Marxism, but when I watched them, I was also a newbie. Now I'm a board member in the. Oh, sweet! Congratulations! I'm glad that I have swayed your thoughts and influenced you in that way, comrade. That is the point of my content, and that's why I don't want to stop. But yeah, scrolling down, another productive discussion with S4A. If I could get him on the channel, dude, Socialism for All is like a weird, majestic animal out in the wild. He has a mystique about him. He's very difficult to catch the attention of. He's a very busy man, a very secretive man, and he's also, it's very difficult to get his attention, and let alone get him on my YouTube channel. He doesn't even want me to record our private conversations, let alone come on the channel. Um, and a lot of that's just him not wanting to associate or be involved with other YouTubers. He mainly wants to do his own thing, and I respect that. That's fine. I'd love to have him back on. I'd love to talk to him again. I love Socialism for All. I think he's awesome. Very wise, very educated man. But unfortunately, he's doing his own thing, and I can respect that. The American Nosball Party, Jackson Stinkhole. Oh yeah, that's something worth talking about. We can revisit the Nosballs. Oh yeah, and how they're yeah, infrared, jack off tinkle. They're not really relevant, but I still feel like they're worth talking about because they're neo-LaRouchites. So, within like the rightist sphere, there's a propensity for the right to try and co-opt and appropriate leftist rhetoric and messaging and aesthetics so that they can pull steam away from legitimate socialism and swindle the general public by appealing to their more populist sentiments. It's inherently very opportunistic. LaRouche, El Douche, LaRouche, straight up admitted that he was an op and that he was basically trying to pull the Marxist sphere more right wing. He was trying to basically de-Marxify socialism. So he was straight up a Fed. And people like Infrared and Jackson Hinkle, I don't think they're like actual Feds, but they're carrying water for the Feds. So they may as well be Feds in practice. Anywho, new Communist Party of the Netherlands. Chairman Gonzalo Smitted Alberto Fujimori talk about how Marxists should stop expecting anything from the Social Democrats, like, oh, I'm always down to dunk on Sanders. Why Bernie Sanders is a traitor. That's a worthwhile topic because Sanders is basically sold out the movement multiple times. He is ultimately a Democratic partisan loyalist. He's a fucking thrall to the Democratic partisan machinery. And it's so fascinating, guys. Since Trump has gotten elected, everyone I know has taken a significantly deeper interest in the politics than they used to. I knew Trump was going to win, and I told this to everybody in my personal life. And I also said that I hope Trump wins. And some of my liberal friends, you're like, aren't you a communist though? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, why would you want Trump to win? And I'm like, because he'd be horrible for American hegemony. That's why. Not because he's good for America, but because he's bad for America, and because he will get people to care. People will care significantly more about politics because he just goes full mask off and lays bare the true ugliness and barbarism inherent to the system. Now, the next great hurdle we need to advance class consciousness even further is to get people to understand that Trump is a symptom, not the problem. Donald Trump is a symptom of a much deeper rooted problem. Like, people didn't care nearly as much. This is one thing that really frustrates me or irritates me about a lot of Americans is that, and this is true of a lot of people in general, if it doesn't affect me personally, then who gives a fuck? Like, I don't see this outrage from my liberal friends and colleagues about like what's going on in fucking Gaza. Like that was going on under the tenure of the Democrats. Oh, but now all of a sudden they give a shit, and all of a sudden it's so much worse now that it's Trump. And it's like some of them will straight up dance on the carcasses of Palestinian children for the sake of winning an argument. Like he'll see, I told you Trump was going to be worse. 1,000 times support for Israel. Like, bro, it doesn't get more 1,000 times support for Israel than pumping hundreds of billions of dollars into the regime and like helping them conduct their operations by picking out targets with our spy planes and our drones out of Gaza for them to blow up. So yeah, it's always a worthwhile opportunity. But furthermore, it's working just like I intended. After Trump got elected, people care significantly more about politics. They're paying significantly more attention than they normally do. Even though, like, in practice, Donald Trump isn't really uniquely evil at all. He's just the logical continuation of decades of policies that have been pushed and implemented by the Republicans. Like, objectively, in my opinion, I think Ronald Reagan was objectively worse for the world than Donald Trump was. I think George Bush was objectively worse for the world than Trump is. And I also think that Barack Obama has been objectively worse for the world than Trump has. Just saying. And now, like, they're like, oh, he's pulling away funding from USAID. Like, now USAID is getting pulled. And I'm like, okay, so what? All he's doing is axing United States soft power over broken countries that, like, it's like, here's what USAID is. It's like if a robber breaks into your house, takes all your shit, kills your pets, and injures all your family members and just wrecks your house, takes all your valuables, and ruins your home and ruins you. And then they leave a $100 bill, more like a $10 bill, at the front door with a little letter that says, sorry for the inconvenience. That's what USAID is. Countries, entire continental swaths of the globe get ruined as a direct product of US and Western foreign policy. Massive refugee crises are created. Millions of people's lives are destroyed. These countries are impoverished, destabilized. Any hope for the future or any hope or chance of them securing their own self-determination just wiped out. And then America's like, okay, but here's some condoms for the AIDS epidemic. Like, bro, you fucking caused the problem in the first place. That's why I don't give a shit. Like, as far as I'm concerned, good. Cut US aid. You're weaning the world off of the teat of US imperialism. You're putting these countries in a position where they aren't reliant on the United States, which means America has less soft power. America has less influence over these countries. I mean, so all these things that Trump are doing, it's purely superficial. These people care more about what he says versus what he does. Thing is like he's talking about cutting aid. Like, I hope Trump does half the ridiculous shit he's saying, like tariffs on Canada. I hope he does this stuff because it's going to cause U.S. hegemony and influence around the world to take a nosedive. It's gonna completely delegitimize America. It's gonna galvanize the public against the government. Like, all he's doing is sowing the seeds for his own demise, and that's exactly what I want. I'm going full accelerationist, baby. Full accelerationist. Anyways, a video idea about the Democratic Party, and they are not going to save us. I mean, I already kind of did that talking about Kamala Harris, but why the Democratic Party will not save us from Trump, and why we will keep getting Trumps, and why we will keep getting Trumps because of them. Not only are the Democrats utterly impotent to stop Donald Trump, they would rather allow fascists to run roughshod over the country than have any chance of socialist reform. And that's the gospel truth. The DNC will go out. I'm currently working on something against the nutsacks, the Nat socks, you mean, that I've been working on for the past 2 years, but I'm not sure when it'll be done because the subject of my critique is always in motion. I mean, yeah, after a certain point, you just kind of have to accept what, you got to kind of accept, this is good enough. Canadians supported U.S. imperialism, only now they're outraged about Trump's annexation threats. It's fucking stupid. I've been full beanie mode lately. I don't even know why. It's like 500-degree weather out there, but yeah, Trump's annexation of Greenland, Canada, I'm not going to lie. I kind of hope he follows through. I kind of hope yes, please invade Canada, annex Canada. Oh, what's that? All of a sudden, you're anti-imperialism now, you're anti-war now. Notice how they're only anti-war and anti-imperialism when it comes to fucking white people. But then, like, when it comes to pretty much anyone living at or below the equator, they're like, nah, it's fair game. They're just disposable pawns in America's geopolitical chess game. Like, they celebrate the collapse of the Syrian government. They fucking run apologetics for fascist ethno-states like the State of Israel. They'll argue that white genocide is going on of the Boers in apartheid South Africa. They'll be on board. Like, these people, like, they're always for the current intervention, but then, like, they're only against previous acts of imperialism when they have the benefit of hindsight, But they're always for the current war, But all of a sudden, America is going to do imperialist expansion of Canada. It's only a problem when it's fucking white people, right? Isn't that how it works? It's another reason why, like, they want to support Ukraine unconditionally and use them as meat shields to weaken Russia. That's what that's about. But anywho, you should do an interview with the ACP, the American Council of Bolsheviks. You could do an interview with Revolutionary Blackout. Here, I'm going to list that too. Revolutionary Blackout Network. Potential interview with Revolutionary Blackout Network. Oh, I got one. This shit just came to me. Why the Soviet Union were the good guys during the Cold War. That'd be a good little piece of propaganda worth going through. Yeah, the American Communist Party. I thought you were talking about the American Council of Bolsheviks. Yeah, I got that written down too. The United States is a prison house of nations, and a revisionist. Revisionist implies that there was ever any socialism in the first place. You will sooner find pussy in a gay porno than you will find socialism in the United States government. While I don't think any of this is bad, America's falling apart. How can we create communities that will resist? Check up on your neighbors, see how they're doing. Try getting to know your neighbors, see what their struggles are. How many people in America actually talk to their neighbors? As far as I can tell, most people fucking hate each other, at least in the suburbs, based on my experience, because I live in a suburb. Most people fear and hate one another, but if you live in an apartment complex or you live up in downtown area, I would say get to know your neighbors, get involved with their struggles, and just see what's going on locally. Maybe try to do some mutual aid stuff like a communal tool shed or something. And because that's mostly what it's going to take is at a grassroots level, just banding together locally. Um, because that's something that people don't nearly do enough of. How to avoid 1989 type situation with the likes of Yeltsin? That's an excellent question, to be honest. I don't know. It doesn't help that the seeds for the Soviet Union's demise were being perpetually manufactured by the United States for decades. America really, really worked overtime to demolish the USSR. Like and the reasons for its dissolution are complex, but long story short, it was effectively a coup, and it speaks to a general weakness of Soviet political infrastructure. I would say that more than anything. You just had a minority of bureaucrats that saw reverting to capitalism as a get rich quick scheme, and you also had a liberal counterculture that, glorified the West without understanding why the West was so much wealthier in the first place. I'd say education more than anything, helping the people understand and having as much power in the hands of the people and holding power accountable as much as possible is what you can do. But I really don't think the dissolution of the USSR was an inevitability. I definitely think the project could have been salvaged, but I'm not going to pretend like I have all the answers. Down with the Khrushchevite bro. We're in the 2020s now. Khrushchev's been dead for 50 years. You can stop shitting on him now. And incompetent cops uh, build a roadmap, harm reduction organizing. Oh, yeah, helping the needy. Sooner or later, you're going to have to start sticking your neck out and taking risks. And what I mean by that is conducting and participating in extra legal activities. I want to talk about legitimacy. One moment. I want to talk about the concept of legitimacy or the confidence, faith that people have in institutions or organizations. Legitimacy is what keeps nations together. It's what keeps governments in charge and in power. It's what gets people to respect and obey the law. It's what gives value to this paper right here, this green paper. This shit, yeah. What you're looking at is just green paper with some fancy, impressive looking symbols on it. Legal tender. What gives this value is the confidence that people have that this thing has value. And value itself is, it's sort of like Higgs boson. It's semi-measurable, semi-quantifiable, but that's besides the point. The point is that people, it goes back to a deep-rooted tribal psychology. Back in ancient caveman times, tribes would have the chief, and the chief was the highest authority in all the land. And so people would respect the word of the chief. They would do what the chief says uncritically. They would just do it because the chief knows best. The chief is legitimate. Now, if we take this at a macroscopic scale with modern day governments, the law it only has power insofar as that people perceive it as legitimate. And same with governments. Insofar, and that's a big reason why America has been able to keep up the illusion of freedom and the illusion of choice, largely because it's been able to bribe significant chunks of its population with the spoils of stolen Indian land and imperialist plunder around the globe. And that's a big thing that's bought legitimacy or a class peace, a class truce in America for a long time. As it turns out, the key to American prosperity is contingent on the rest of the world being bombed to smithereens. But otherwise, that buys legitimacy. My life is good. My life is comfortable, even if the situation isn't great. It's working out for me. Therefore, the system is doing something right. The system is legitimate. So the material base is a big part of what buys legitimacy. Also, the belief in civilization, law and order, all that other jazz. And don't get me wrong, cultural hegemony, brainwashing, and ideology goes into it as well. But a big part of that legitimacy is bought with the spoils and wealth. That's what gets people to buy into the mythology. Oh, and then I can go to an election. I can vote. You can turn out every 2 to 4 years to vote as well. So I have the freedom to pick my leaders, to choose my leaders. So that buys even more legitimacy because on the surface we're a democracy. Now, granted, it's all an illusion, but at a surface, purely superficial level, America seems legitimate. America is legitimate. People, white middle class suburbanites, the well to do, perceive the system as legitimate. And the key to undermining that legitimacy, well, I mean, it's perpetually undermining its own legitimacy. Like Donald Trump is effectively banning free speech. He's saying he's going to cut federal funding to pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian protesters on every college campus. That undermines legitimacy right there. The actions of the government and the perpetually mounting contradictions and crises, the economic crises that are mounting on one another and making life increasingly difficult, is what is shaking the legitimacy of the United States government. And the paradigm shift occurs when people no longer perceive the government as a legitimate institution, when it is delegitimized. This is what America does constantly. That's the whole point of the sanctions, the Radio Free Asia, Radio Free Europe, Operation Gladius or Gladio, um, the information war, color revolutions. All this shit is to manufacture opposition and to undermine the legitimacy of governments that the United States is enemies with. By extension, undermining the collective faith, the collective confidence that the general public has in their respective governments, and to generate internal popular support for a coup or a color revolution of sorts. So, the key to any sort of regime change is a crisis in legitimacy. That's what led to the end of the Soviet Union, and that's what it's going to take to bring an end to the United States. So there already is a growing, mounting legitimacy crisis within America. Trump is actively undermining the legitimacy of the Constitution by going mask off and basically banning speech that he doesn't like. And people are pointing this out. Some of my liberal friends and liberals that I know in my personal life think they're so insightful. This is something that is crazy. Liberals think they're so insightful because when they point out when conservatives say they're all pro-free speech, but then they want to censor and ban people from touting takes and positions they disagree with, they think they're so insightful by pointing this out, being like, oh, you claim to be free speech, and yet you want to actively censor this person, yada, 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 you're a hypocrite. And, but the thing is that hypocrisy does not exist in the minds of the right wing. Because at the end of the day, most nobody believes in free speech, but that's besides the point. Point is that this undermines the legitimacy of the United States government. And as the US government continues to fail to address these economic crashes, as people's lives grow increasingly difficult, as the wealth gap between the working class and capitalists grows wider and wider, um, there's going to be a growing crisis of legitimacy within the United States. And right now, we aren't even close to having the proper alternative institutions to replace any of that. So, at the very least, just get organized at a grassroots level. But this is what we should be working towards: is to undermine the United States' legitimacy and to um, basically get people to lose faith and confidence in the government. That's the roundabout way of what I'm trying to say. And so, there are some good trends, some positive trends, some quality assurance trends that I think are, like, for example, record numbers of people are not signing up for the US military. They actually had to reinstitute the draft because they're not meeting their quotas. Fewer and fewer people than ever before are joining the FBI, joining the military, joining the police, and this is a good thing. It means that people are losing confidence in these institutions. It means that people see these institutions, like, most people know the Iraq war was a corrupt war. Most people know it was only for oil. Most people are starting to recognize that America doesn't wage wars to spread freedom and democracy. It wages wars to for the sake of enriching the prison industrial complex, as well as, like, looking out and protecting the interests of the wealthy plutocrats. And, like, so this is a good trend. Me personally, I would never sign up and join the army. Never ever. Even if America got invaded by, say, China. Let's say tomorrow America got invaded by China, right? Even then, I wouldn't join the army. I would be much more likely to flee the country. Or, if anything, probably be like a Chinese spy, if anything, and actively work. Like, my patriotism is at an all-time low. Like, I would never fight for this country. Why? Why would I fight for this country? What has this piece of shit country and its government ever done for me? Huh? What has this country ever done for me? It won't give me health care. It won't provide me, like, a job guarantee. It won't do any of the things that allow me to work towards my own prosperity and self-determination. So why would I fight for this country when I know that it's going to be a hostile war of aggression in virtually every instance? And also, I'm going to fight and die not to protect my country, but to protect the interests of wealthy oligarchs that are just trying to further their own wealth and manipulate markets and manipulate economies and destroy economies around the globe, enriching themselves at the expense of literally everyone, while I'm going to fight and kill people who, even if they're a different color and speak a different language from me, they are, most all instances, struggling working people just like me. They're just trying to make their way in the world like myself, and they value the same things I do. Like, why would I do that? Like, I honestly don't, like, here's the thing. I get that you get the Gibbs, you get your free healthcare and your free like, you get your free healthcare and education from, because of the GI Bill. If you join the military, serve in the military, you'll get the government goods, the healthcare and the education that should have been provided to you in the first place. But, like, why? Like, all it is just dangling a carrot over my head so that I can serve the genocidal empire. Like, that's all that is. Like, these are things you should be giving to your citizenry in general. It shouldn't be like, used as a carrot to incentivize people, ignorant people, to go fight and die in these, like, adventurous wars and conflicts. That's all I'm saying. Like, the ignorance is just, like, astonishing. But yeah, no, I would never fight for the US government. Even if America got invaded by China tomorrow, I would flee the country, or if anything, become a Chinese spy before I serve the US government. Fuck the US government. I wipe my ass with the US government. Um, you aren't protecting my freedoms. Like, you can't protect something that never existed in the first place. So, yeah, fuck all that. So, rant over. Not gonna lie, better late than never, but any liberal that is honest is realizing that capitalism is kind of not it. They're almost there. They're almost there. And it's really frustrating. Like, how people just don't get it. Like, they act like Trump is an anomaly. They act like he's a glitch when he's actually a feature. Like, Donald, we're going to keep getting Donald Trump's people. We're going to keep getting people like him because that's that's what this system increasingly perpetuates are people like that. I'm seeing record amounts of backlash against the Trump administration. But like, where were these people when the Democrats were conducting genocide in Gaza or overseeing the conducting of genocide in Gaza? You didn't hear nearly as much of it. It's only when Trump jams children into cages and separates them from their parents, only then it's a catastrophe. But when the Democrats do it, they just don't think about it. And this is like a big hurdle, a really big hurdle that a lot of Americans, a lot of left leaning Americans need to overcome and really come to terms with. It's that the Democrats are their enemies. The Democrats are their class enemy. They are there to dupe and manipulate them. And the sooner they make a mass exodus from the Democratic Party, the better. And that's the reason why I am hell bent on making contents that I do. So, civil war is more a possibility in this country since Americans tend to dislike each other so much. Yeah, I would say so. But by the same token, Americans are generally cowards when it comes to their own lives, and people don't even can't even be bothered to show up to a peaceful protest in like a cop allowed protest in which they're in a standing around in a free speech zone just dangling up signs. A lot of people can't even be bothered to fucking do that. What makes you think they're gonna grab guns and like be radical enough to fight? Like, then again, you wouldn't need too many people to do civil war, protracted people's war. Point is yeah. Do I think China is socialist? No. I think they have a chance of going socialist, but I don't think they're socialist at this time. I think as a one another commenter said, they are revisionist, but that doesn't mean that they couldn't be socialist in the future. Though I do believe they have the infrastructure to transition if sufficient political will is mustered. You had a video idea you typed a what? Can we move on from the Dems? Yeah, we yeah we'll move on. We'll move on now. So I think it's about time. Damn, we're 38 minutes in. I think it's about time I showed you guys a little project I was working on. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. Start from here. Well, actually, first I'm going to show you guys this. This is a rough draft of my title for my graphic novel. Window, where are you? Here we go. We'll share this. So what you're looking at is a rough draft of the title of my graphic novel, or Odyssey of Defiance is what I have titled it. I made it nice and fancy, pretty dope ass text. I wanted to make something iconic and bold looking. It's still a work in progress. Um, Let me know if you guys have any suggestions or if anyone would like to make a title for me. But this is basically the rough prototype of it. And but yeah, I'm gonna go through the entirety of chapter one with you guys, and I'm gonna act it out um, as though I'm really there. So close that out, and then I'm gonna share. Okie doke. So I just want to say I did the art for literally everything. I did the art for literally everything here. Um, I drew all this and I wrote all of this, and it took an ungodly amount of time. But yeah, so basically, our main character is having a nightmare. He is running for his life, as he is being trailed by a group behind him, and he's hearing memories echo in the back of his mind. You are shaping up to be everything I've ever hoped you would be, Tiber. Now, with the last embers of your previous life snuffed out. Forgive him, Master Knight. He is but a boy. He doesn't know what he says. The prisoner has yet to break, Master Questioner, and also the words echoing in his mind as he runs down the corridor. Killer, 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 killer. Murderer, 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 murderer. Then we shall remove pieces from him until he talks. True, ultimate failure must be met with ultimate punishment. There's nothing left to hold you back. You will grow stronger, crueler, and he hides behind the corner from the group. And this is the group that's trailing him from the shadows. The Black Legion has arrived. Everyone, run for your lives. And then here are the 9 riders. And obviously he's scared. He runs. To be a Black Knight is to know ultimate freedom. The freedom to take without asking, to trespass without invitation, to seize what we please, to sever the cord of life from whomever we see fit. By the powers invested in the undying Emperor and the authority of the Dominion, we are granted complete immunity for our transgressions, and all our master asks for us in return is our unconditional loyalty. And they track him down. Man with the repeater crossbow shoots him, and then the onslaught begins. So the archer shoots his vicious arrows, and then there is a Salatrian sorceress who hurls a fireball at him, and they sick their dog at him, and they're riding on horseback. Seldom is there a more satisfying pleasure than reveling in the slaughter of one's enemies. And then again, killer, 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 killer. Murderer, murderer. We see a light in the black, a shimmering glimmer of hope in a sea of darkness, and we snuff it out. It's a matter of principle, we see. As the dog hops over from the water, chasing right after him, he pulls the arrow out of his ass cheek, and then he proceeds to stab the dog and toss it back into the water in the distance. Murderer, murderer. He continues to run, darting for his life, and he continues to hear the memories and the ghosts of his past haunting him as the 9 riders start to close in on his position. What crime could these people possibly be so guilty of to deserve such a cruel fate? Absolutely nothing, which is the worst crime of all. And he continues to get pelted with crossbow shots. And then the witch rides by and then sprays and freezes the water beneath his feet, causing him to trip and fall prone on the ground. Turncoat, you stood to gain the world. You stood to be pardoned, to gain vast wealth and an estate, to have your very blood legitimized, to spend the remainder of your days in blissful prosperity with me happily by your side. And then these are the final panels. The halberd gets raised up high in the air, and it comes right down on him as the 9 riders encroach on his position. You would sooner turn your back on your country, your emperor, your comrades, your love, your very destiny, all so you can die by the side of these pathetic worms. And then he wakes up from the nightmare to the eerie phrase, "I'll dissect you." And then he pants, and then he collects himself. It was just a nightmare. Wretched thing, pull yourself together, is what he says to himself. And he climbs out of his tent. And he overlooks the rising sun within the marshes. As he recently had a fire last night, an empty bottle of rum, and he's also got his other belongings in his backpack, as his body is revealed and it is covered in scars. Yeah, we've got a frog, a turtle, and a platypus swimming around and about, a crane, and so on and so forth. And then he just says to himself, right. First thing he does is he pees out the fire while scratching his butt, and then he drinks his last drop of rum, but it dangles from the edge of the bottle, and then he looks in to see what's going on, and then it drops, and unfortunately, he drops the rum in his eye by accident. Whoops. And then he rolls up his knapsack, He straps it to his backpack, and he gets a t-shirt on. Then he proceeds to buckle this leather pauldron and gauntlet onto his arm right here. And then he puts on his, what are they called? Fucking chaps. Yeah, he puts on his steel codpiece along with some green leather chaps. He gets his boots on. Next up, he starts to armor up, donning plate all across his upper body, and then fastening his short blade and his long sword to his belt, and then wrapping his hand in gauze, and then plating it as well. And then in the final shot, putting his backpack on, revealing the Tesseract, or his amulet, magic amulet, and he proceeds to put it down the sleeve of his plate mail, and then he finally dons the blue cloak that you can see right here. Moving on. Read some comments. I want to see some reactions here. Oh, damn, I lost a lot of viewers. I don't give a fuck. Anyways, moving on. So, as you can see, we are admiring nature. There are bees flying around this beehive. There's a squirrel chewing on a nut with some ants coming in and out. And then finally, there's a little ducky poo right here, and some chick ducks. I still got some polish to do, but I was going to have a little quack, quack, quack with little chirps going on right here. Moving on. The rising sun is in the distance as he walks alone down this rocky road. As you can see right here, he continues to walk through these marshes until finally he approaches the scene of the area. Hear ye, oh hear ye. He gets his attention. He overhears a preacher. Hear ye, oh hear you, my fellow faithful. Step forth, come and see. For this man stands before us accused of being in leagues with unholy forces most evil. We are gathered here today to discern the apostate's fate, and with the divine authority bestowed upon me, Reverend Falwell Haggard Demetrius III, I shall use my holy guidance to dictate his sentence within this popular court of our peers. And so you see the crowd right here, a man tied to a stake. And by the way, I am changing the font. It's Comic Sans now, as you can see, but I'm actually going to change it to Helvetica. I still have some polishing to do. But anyways. But before we arrive at any verdict, we must first hear the testimonies of all whom have bore witness to his transgressions. Please step forth, give your personal accounts. And then a man speaks. I witnessed it firsthand. 'Twas the witching hour, and I heard a kaboom and saw a large cloud of smoke coming from a so-called laboratory. And then the man speaks, saying, first off, it's pronounced laboratory. Laboratory. Second, if you just give me a moment, I can explain to you what I was doing. Oh, yeah? He gets interrupted. Well, I smelled a foul odor coming from his labradoodle, evil lair. I peered through his window to find him tinkering with infernal contraptions and devices most strange. There's no doubt he's in league with demonic spirits, perpetuating the haunt against our town. And here you have the ignorant townsfolk cheerleading his demise. Next up, this man speaks, saying, he salted our farmlands, poisoned our water supply, and has violated the maidenhood of our firstborn daughters. And everyone says, he has? No. But are we just going to sit around and wait until he does? Hush, my brothers and sisters, for we must give the accused a chance to repent and plea. You there, Saint Bartholomew Davis, bona fide apothecary and known consort of the grieving widow and her blasphemous court of witches, what saith you in your defense? And he says, what? How do you even know about that? Never mind. Father, I am but a humble student of the natural world. The aforementioned cloud of smoke following the kaboom emanating from my home was an unexpected volatile reaction that I inadvertently triggered after mixing a reagent with a bad alchemical batch. I was anticipating a vastly different outcome, were it not for a minor miscalculation. Furthermore, Don't let my affiliation with the Salutary deceive you. There's absolutely nothing infernal about any of my contraptions. I assure you that all of my work and associated paraphernalia is very much of the secular stock. Did you just say your work, and by extension your character, is that of the secular type? Yes, Father, neither divine nor profane, neither holy nor unholy. Gods and devils have nothing to do with it. I merely seek a better understanding of the world. And then the preacher says, then it is a closed case. The heretic has confessed that his work is not divine in origin or in character, which can only mean its origin and character comes straight from the foulest depths of the pit. Fiendish forces are known to take on a host of disguises to trick and deceive those who live without the guiding light of the demiurge. Submit yourself before the will of the church, and you shall know mercy. As pittance for your transgression, you must also overturn all of your worldly possessions to us. For the remainder of the cold season, you will live and undergo conversion and be rehabilitated. You must also forsake your so-called scientific research for the remainder of your days. Any future studies you wish to undertake must be sanctioned by and transpire beneath my divine interpretation and oversight. So basically become the church's bitch. Give up my life's work? I think I'd rather die. You heard it here. The apostate rejects salvation and has instead chosen the fire. If ye have any last words, speak I object. And then a man speaks from the crowd. The man in blue introduced a moment ago. And the crowd looks at him, and then he speaks. Devils, disguises, infernal contraptions. What is this man's actual crime? He stands guilty of being a heretical apostate who rejects the word of the Lightbringer, and has thus brought curses upon our land. Only upon the removal of the unfaithful and degenerate elements of our village's character will the blight come to an end. Thus I am sending him back to the fiery pit where he belongs. And then the man speaks. You're not burning this man at the stake. And then the preacher says, is that so? Says who? And then the man says the man who just said you're not burning this man at the stake. And beneath his cloak, he quietly grabs his short blade. The preacher speaks again. I see we have an interloper in our midst, a fiendish agent, no doubt, who seeks to prolong our town's misery and subvert divine justice. Eric, Michael, get him out of here. With pleasure, Father Demetrius. And so he is approached by the two monks. And then he tells them, he warns them, touch me with that hand and you'll lose it. And he proceeds to touch him with that hand. And as you can see, he loses it. And unfortunately for him, it's not a clean cut. It's still hanging on by a piece of skin. And then he has an appropriate reaction to having his hand lopped off. Just screaming. The whole crowd is shocked and in awe. And then the guy behind him says, you bastard! And he swings a club at him. And he proceeds to duck under the club swing. And then proceeds to slam the pommel of his short blade into the nose of the monk, breaking his nose, and then cocking his fist back, and then punching him right in the jaw, knocking a bunch of his teeth out. And then he says, and as you can see, the monk over here in the background is crying, bawling his eyes out, because his hand just got dismembered. And then the other guy over here got KO'd stiff. He is out cold. And then the man says, the next wastrel who steps to me dies. So you best cut him loose, lest I cut you next. And then the big man, the bell ringer, walks up. And then the preacher says, no, Thipodestus, stay thy might, for you are no match for him as you are at this time. And then he just grimaces, Urgh! I will not lie, interloper, you are quite powerful, but here at the Church of Lucretian we have a power of our own. For the sake of the peace we will do as you request, but know this, you will come to rue this day. Do you hear me? Rue the day! I'm counting on it. And then about 5-10 minutes later, everyone kind of fucks off, and then the man speaks, whom he just rescued. First and foremost, I would like to thank you kindly for the daring rescue of my person. For that, you have my utmost gratitude. I am curious, though, to whom I owe the pleasure of said gratitude to. May I know the name and face of my rescuer? Why did you put yourself in harm's way on my behalf? He says. And then the man takes his cloak off and speaks. For one, I was never in harm's way, and for two, seriously, they were a ravenous lynch mob ready to burn you, for no other crime than not being religious enough at that. I simply don't have it in me anymore to stand idly by and remain complicit in such evils. It was within my power to act, and so I obliged. I'm Tiber. Davis, right? St. Bartholomew Davis, inventor, researcher, alchemist, metallurgist, mathematician, engineer, and vivisectionist, at your service. Well met. Likewise. Tell me something, Davis. How does a man of your vast talents and expertise end up bound to a bundle of faggots by north a score of zealots in the middle of a marsh? It is something of a long story, but I'll try to abbreviate and limit it to the relevant details pertaining to the crisis that has befallen this land, as my predicament is merely one part of a larger whole. What do you guys think so far? Oh, wow, I'm actually returning the page I'm still here, my dude, but yeah, looking good. This page so far is my favorite. Uh, Evil Lair? You mean Evil? Yeah, I still need to polish. Berserk's definitely influence of mine. But anyways, moving on. I was a professor and researcher at the College of Reinhold. For almost 25 years, the laboratory was my wheelhouse. I had a beautiful wife, a family, a good paying career, the respect of my academic colleagues. Life was good. I was happy. And you see the little laboratory down here? He's got a little Tesla coil. Unfortunately, due to a series of unfortunate events outside of my control, I lost everything. My wife, my job, my kids, my glorious laboratory, large sums of research, everything. And there's the college behind him. I spent years drifting from city to city in search of a philanthropic person or institution willing or able to sponsor my work to no avail. And a little heads up, Bartholomew here, the church conspired against him at the college as well. And the preacher's daughter, accused him of basically raping her or sexually assaulting her. And what happened was it was a huge kangaroo court fiasco. He got wrongly accused in a civil court, and he ended up taking a plea deal in which he would have his name permanently stained, and he would become known as a civilly liable rapist. And he ended up basically having to pay all of his life savings out, and then some. And then his wife divorces him, takes his home and what little wealth he has left, and turns all of his kids against him after hooking up with the dude she was having an affair with for 10 years. So Bartholomew got utterly fucked. And that scarlet letter of being a civilly liable rapist followed him to the other colleges that he tried to apply, and he was not able to find work again. Even though there's no proof he didn't actually do anything to her, he's totally innocent. They just conspired to burn him and ruin his reputation, basically. Then on one storming night, while looking for refuge from the rain, just as I had contemplated ending it all, I happened upon the doorstep of a derelict manor. The women inside beckoned to me, and as you can see, we have a little treehouse mansion right here. We have a gate and a lady inside with vines wrapping around the building. Turned out the manor was a chauntry of sorts, or a school of witches. That night I became acquainted with their matriarch, a soothsayer. She provided me with spiritual healing and a place to stay for a time. Am I correct to assume that this soothsayer is the so-called grieving widow the preacher was referring to? Yes, precisely. And grieving widow, she is a super important character. She's not relevant right now, but she will be very relevant in Volume 2 and in the future. She's an incredibly powerful witch, one of the last of her kind, victim of genocide, as were many of the indigenous clans within this setting. And her chantry is like the last bastion of her people's real culture and actual tribal tradition. Many of the survivors are forced to live on shitty reservations, as are many of the indigenous. So, yeah, hooray for that, sticking up for her people and protecting her people for decades. But, anyways, 1 10 day later, we reached an agreement where she would provide me with what meager resources were at her tribe's disposal so that I might conduct my research and experiments in exchange for sharing the fruits of my discoveries with her people. She even provided me with a dwelling here in Flothamshire Mortimer, with which I could use to conduct my work. I mean, there's some grammatical tweaking I need to do, I'm aware. It pales in comparison to my old laboratory back at the college, but it'll do the trick. Slowly but surely, I was starting to rebuild my lab and recover what I had lost. For a time, things were going swimmingly. Then the attacks began. And over here we have Siren to the right, who is the grieving widow's daughter. That's her daughter, and that's her closest friend. Her and this lady Dinah are great friends for a time. But that's a different story. In recent months, the Flothamshire area has been plagued by repeated attacks on its denizens by necrophages. At first, the attacks were mild, no more unusual than the occasional ghoul sighting one might find in the wild after dark. But now, as the dry season begins, as the days grow shorter and the nights grow longer, so too grows the frequency and ferocity of these attacks. Roving bands of flesh eating ghouls now stalk the wild on a nightly basis. Anyone caught outside a safe haven after dark has either disappeared or is found rendered a pile of visceral gore upon sunrise. And so here we have the ghouly ghoul chewing on a leg with the fog in the background. I drew all of this, by the way. I had no help. Everything that you see, I drew in Krita or painted in Krita. Anyways, in the wake of the crisis, the mayor has instituted a mandatory curfew upon sundown, as well as issuing a tax levy towards the construction of a 10-foot wall around the downtown area. And here you see the city. Though his harm reduction policies have helped keep people safe, the mayor and the town watch have failed to address the root cause of these attacks despite their best efforts. Tensions are starting to reach a boiling point. People are afraid, desperate, miserable, and fed up with conditions. The town population is now shrinking. Merchants don't stop by to trade like they used to. The guilds are unwilling to renew their contracts with the town, resulting in mass unemployment. And here we have the town. We have, you know, a lady in grief, despair right here, and a tumbleweed, and a guy drinking a bottle of Jamba Juice, and someone walking depressed in the distance. All the while, the church proclaims that this crisis is a sign of the end times, and the only hope for salvation is if we uphold the faith, obey the church unconditionally, and purge the unclean. And as you can see, they approach his home. And so Father Demetrius has been hosting these trials where they point the finger at specific individuals around town suspected of having a spiritually alien character. That is, heathens, degenerates, profligates, etc. And you just so happen to be the most recent subject of the church's persecution. Correct. About an hour ago, whilst I was enjoying my usual morning tea, they broke down my front door, accosted me, abducted me, bound my hands and feet with ropes, and vandalized my home. Where's the town guard in all this? Would the local authorities, or the town watch, where's the town watch in all of this? Would the local authorities know what is going on, they would surely intervene on your behalf, yes? You would think. Oh, shit. You would think, but the watchman by the gate didn't lift a finger to stop them. I distinctly remember making direct eye contact with one of the guards, only for their eyes to quickly dart away as I was being carried out of town. As to why they did not help, your guess is as good as mine. Not now. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna have to go in a bit. Oh, shit. Okay, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to cut this stream short, but first I'm gonna finish my comic. And so he tells him the town watch didn't do anything to help him or rescue him when he got abducted by the lynch mob. And so Tiber says, I see. And he turns around and he walks away. Well, it was good meeting you. Take care of yourself. Ditch town while you still can. Hold on, where are you going? Away from here. Hold up, you can't just abandon these people to their fate. You need to help them. The only thing I need is a hot meal, a bottle of rum, and a woman to service me. And then as Bartholomew lays his hand on his shoulder, he slaps it off, saying, Furthermore, why by the fiery pit do you care? These people just tried to burn you. They don't know what they do. They're afraid and desperate and vulnerable to being misled. You can't condemn this entire village over that. And Tiber proceeds to go on a rant. Yes, I can. If there was a single redeemable soul in that village, they would have defied the crowd and stood up. At least they would have tried to help you. But that's not what I saw. Instead, not a single man or woman worth their weight in salt had the stones or the conviction to rise to the occasion. Evil only prevails when good men remain idle. So the fact that it took me, of all people, me, to stand up and do what is right, is a colossal indictment on the quality of the character of the people of this town. So I say, fuck them. Let them suffer. I'm gonna go get me a hot meal, a drink, and a night woman at the nearest saloon from a town not named Flothendale. And so Bartholomew retorts by saying this. You have a very callous perspective, but fine. If you won't do it for the greater good of your fellow man, you should still do it for the reward. What reward? The mayor is offering a lump sum of cash to anyone who can figure out and resolve the crisis. You would be paid generously for your labor. Generously, you say? How much are we talking here? Last I heard through the grapevine, it's in the ballpark of 1,000 royal vouchers. 1,000 royal vouchers? And so he ponders for a moment, considering the deal, the potential offer. Because just for a bit of context, royal vouchers are the money of this setting. It's fiat, it's cold hard cash, not fiat. There's a silver/gold standard. But basically, 21 royal vouchers will buy you. 21 royal vouchers are directly exchangeable for an ounce coin of silver, and an ounce coin of silver is directly exchangeable for 21 royal vouchers at any NAS bank. That's like the national bank of the country. It's directly redeemable at any NAS bank within the Dominion. And gold, you can exchange an ounce gold coin for 315 royal vouchers, or you can exchange 315 royal vouchers for an ounce of bullion gold coin. And a little bit of context: a royal voucher is probably like $30 worth of our money. That's like just to put things into perspective. But anyways, so 1,000 royal vouchers. That's like 40, 50 grand for the job to help these people with their crisis. So he considers it, and you know what? You guys, guess what his reaction is? Just guess for a split second. Does he take the deal? The answer is no. Sorry, the answer is still no. Oh, come on! You're telling me that you're going to turn down 1,000 vouchers. You could live like a king off that money. And he turns back to him and he says, I have money. Or wait, do I have money? Hold on. And he opens his wallet up. And then when he opens his wallet, he finds it to be empty with a moth fluttering out of it. And then, much to his shock and dismay, he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have shit. He's broke. And he proceeds to shout, Lightbringer be damned, as he throws the wallet at a nearby tree. And then he says, fine, I'll help this stupid town with its stupid problem. Yay, I always believe you do the right thing. But first, I am hungry. You are going to buy me breakfast and a drink before I help anyone out with anything. Got it? And then they proceed to walk to town. And he says, "Sure thing, best pal. And don't call me pal. Sure thing, best buddy. And don't call me that either. How about my dude from another womb?" And then Tiber proceeds to threaten him. "I'm going to cut you." "Okay, fine, I'll stop. Hey, we should invent a special handshake to signify our newly formed fraternity." "We're not a fraternity, and no, we should not." "Okay, why don't we play a guessing game on our way to town to pass the time?" "I have a better idea. Why don't we play the quiet game instead?" And there they are walking off in the distance, um, over the grassy hill and the stone road. Little do they know is that they are being stalked slash followed by a woman with mysterious intents. But there she is. They are being stalked by a huntress of sorts from the far south, and I had a lot of fun drawing her. She's also going to be very important later on, but yeah, as of now, she is Tiber's secret stalker, whom he meets a few chapters later, who has a mysterious agenda which I shan't reveal. But yeah, that's it. To be continued. I've already got sketches done of chapter 2, so let me know what you guys think. Have you been studying during your hiatus? No. You're actually inspirational. You have so much motivation and passion for your work. I'm impressed by that alone. Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Lol, that throwing muscular woman. I had a lot of fun drawing her. Oh, yeah, I did. I enjoy drawing women. But yeah, I've got like 7 chapters to go before volume 1 is done. But yeah, I had fun drawing her. Going back. Shade is super important. That's the lady's name. And then there's Grieving Widow. She is also very important. She is like a legit witch. She has like mommy's got some tricks up her sleeve. She's got a variety of spells at her disposal, and she's gonna be periodically like a member of the party. Like she's gonna work with them on and off. And she's going to have a mystique about her, and she's going to be super helpful. Some of her spells include hex or curses, the suggestion spell, charm, which the use of charm it'll it will raise people's disposition unnaturally towards her, so they'll have an unnatural affinity towards her, so they'll be more receptive to her suggestions. Suggestion, as long as she doesn't, as long as you don't suggest anything absurd, like self harm or inflicting harm on others. It could be something simple like, "Hey, uh, you should give me some money," or "Hey, you should let me pass through this restricted area," or "Hey, you should tell me this information you otherwise wouldn't give away." That's how suggestion works. And it works on most people except particularly strong willed individuals. And then she also has the buoyancy spell, which lets her walk on water and other liquid surfaces such as tar and quicksand. She has earthbending at her disposal, so she can control and manipulate stones and mud and even lava with her mind. Um, she has one spell called Obfuscate, where she can effectively turn invisible. She has uh, she has illusion. Like her main thing, her wheelhouse is illusions. She can make herself appear taller and more monstrous than she actually is, and she can even kill with her illusions. She's incredibly powerful at the cost of being maniacal. She is a literal maniac, hence why she has like that intense glare in her eyes. She's manic, and she suffers from periodic bouts of psychosis, which last up to 6 days, and they coincide her period. So whenever she's on her period, she's gonna be hallucinating, like hearing whispers from the shadows, seeing faces pop out of the walls and out of the trees, experiencing manic mode switches. She completely lacks any and all forms of emotional regulation. So, in the same way, like normally you experience varying degrees of emotions, be it anger, sadness, or joy. Whatever emotions she experiences, there is no regulation. It's more like an on-off switch. So whatever emotions she experiences, it's always going to be 100%. So if she's angry, she's furious. If she's irritated, she's livid. If she's hungry, she's ravenous. If she's scared, she's terrified. If she's happy, she's ecstatic. Basically, like that. And these manic mode switches are way worse whenever she's under psychosis. But yeah, mental illness is going to be like a recurring thing. It's a recurring topic that I'm going to be exploring. The main character, Tiber, is riddled with self hatred and PTSD. It's actually pretty debilitating. Bartholomew's on the spectrum. Shade doesn't really have anything wrong with her. But let's see. Kurgan is dyslexic. Um, Armin suffers from postpartum depression. Gemini uh, is a serial toucher or a serial thief, like a compulsive thief and a compulsive liar. Well, Shade is a compulsive liar. There you go. Point is that every member of this unique and exotic group suffers from varying degrees of mental illness, and yeah, like mental illness is a fairly common thing. They're all a little crazy to varying degrees, and it's something that that I'm planning on exploring. And a big part of a lot of their character arcs is like overcoming the most toxic aspects of themselves. But ultimately, this story is about a highly diverse coalition of people who come together to overthrow an oppressive and tyrannical government. It is an inherently progressive, pro human, pro socialist message. Like, Tiber's going to have an interaction with the capitalist in Volume 2, in which the capitalist explains the nature of wage labor. And Tiber's immediately like, so you're exploiting them. And he's like, no, no, I pay them fair market prices for their labor. In exchange, they give me their time. And I provide them with good jobs. I provide a service to the community. I don't directly take anything out of their pockets. On the contrary, I pay them fairly for their time. And then Tiber immediately says, I fail to see how this isn't just a more obscure and abstract form of exploitation. And he just immediately points it out. But I'm not going to get into the whole backstory and all the other content I have written. So I shall leave it at that for now. All right. You compared to Shrek. That's already in a good way. Bravo. The last scene has a very Shrek and Donkey vibe. I think it's good for being your first. Thank you. Wow, dude, that's so DEI. I don't know what DEI is. Diversity, equity, inclusion. Oh yeah, yeah. So the main character's a tribal. Grieving Widow is a tribal. I mean, Shade is a tribal. Kurgan is tribal. Like most of the main rebels and resistance are all tribals. Basically, they were indigenous people that were because the Dominion displaced these people from their land, stole their land, genocided them, basically did to them what Israel did to Palestine, what America did to the indigenous. They're all direct descendants and survivors of these genocides. The Dominion is an empire that routinely ruins, invades, and destroys other countries and plunders other countries, colonizes other countries to its own profit and benefit. It's basically the Dominion is an analog for the United States, effectively. And yeah, like I said, the main resistance group, many of them are indigenous, but not all of them. There are plenty of them that are non-indigenous as well. It's just most of the main members of this resistance are tribals or of tribal descent. Yeah. Oh yeah, the woke. I can't believe my favorite. Oh yeah, it's going to be very woke. This is going to be a very woke graphic novel, and I'm pretty blatant about it too. It is a story about a self-loathing war criminal, um, a scientist persecuted by the church, a caveman, uh, a gay bottom pirate, a psychotic witch, a pathological liar, and a professional thief. And who else? And those are the ones that come to mind. The group is going to get bigger, and there's going to be a rotating cast of members. They're not the only ones, but we will get into all that another time. But yeah, no, I'm going to be doing wokeness right. This is going to be wokeness done right because it's going to be full of original characters. I'm not going to be doing that lazy ass shit where I just race or gender swap established characters just for the sake of inclusivity. They're actually going to be their own original characters with their own stories and backgrounds. But yeah, that's it. I'm going to be working on this new content. I'm going to make some new videos. Expect new content out of this channel very soon. But yeah, now you guys know what has been consuming a lot of my time. If any of y'all are interested in helping me out, do some of the art. I'm getting a new job pretty soon, and I need someone to help me do backgrounds. If anyone here is a talented artist who wouldn't mind helping me do backgrounds, I'd greatly appreciate it. Reach out to me on Discord, and I'll even compensate you. Like straight up, I'll even compensate you if you actually want to like help me out. Um, I'm willing to pay $20 per hour to the fool who helps me do art. I specifically need backgrounds, landscapes. I'll describe the landscapes, and I'm just going to need you to draw some panoramic views. Use the Krita program, this program right here, entire screen. Yes, this program right here, Krita, is what it's called. As a matter of fact, I'm going to open up. I got to get going here in a sec, but I just want to show you guys like the level of detail in the screenshots that I took do no fucking justice whatsoever because I actually poured a shit ton of detail into it. As soon as it fucking loads, Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, and it's 8.5 by 11, which is absolutely massive. So there's that too. Oh, this is the wrong page, anyways. I meant to open page 14. So I got a couple pages I'm going to open. I already have the first couple of pages for chapter 2 sketched out. And as you can tell, because of the size of these files, it takes a minute for them to load. And I don't think it helps that I'm live streaming right now. Here we go. But yeah, if you zoom in, you can see like I really went out with the detail. If you look, like I really went out with the detail, and it took a while for me to draw. All the way down to the individual blades of grass. The university, um, the clock tower, and then this lady right here, one of my favorite characters. Went all out with the detail of this treehouse mansion, as you can see. Drew the gate and everything. And then I also went all out with her. You can see the individual details on her face. But yeah, anyways, I'm going to open up the first page of chapter 2. Give you guys a little taste, a little preview before I sign off, because I actually do have to go. Here we go. And I'll go ahead and read this off. So the two of them are walking together. I'm going to hide the guide so it's easier to see. And he says, "Tell me something, Davis. Earlier You told me that you had contemplated ending it all amidst your darkest hour. Have you felt that way since? And then he says, Nah, it was just while I was homeless and without the means to conduct my work. I am much happier now, especially now that I've made a friend. Why? Have you contemplated ending it all? And then Tiber says, Sure, all the time. And then Davis says, Truly, if it's a recurring thought, then what, I might ask, is it that keeps you clinging on to life? And then he says, Honestly, I don't know. I suppose I just lack the stones to follow through, and so I drift from town to town, hoping to cross a worthy adversary who might do it for me. Just if and when that day comes, they better not miss. And that's it. Anyways, I hope this has been enjoyable. Do I write my dialogue in Google Doc before I start drawing? Yeah, I usually script it out first before I start drawing. But yeah, hit me up on band. Sign up to my Discord and hit me up and on Discord, and we can discuss and negotiate it. Like, I'm serious when I say I'll even compensate you. Discord link. Yeah. One moment. Server settings. Invite people. Never. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take this link, and I'm going to edit. Well, I'm going to edit. Oh shit. This live stream. And the Discord link is going to be in the description. The stream must be scheduled. Yeah, so I'm going to kill the live stream, and what you're going to do is you're going to refresh the window, and you're going to find the Discord link within the description. And I'll even pin the Discord link in the comment section. But for now, I've legit got to get going. I promise, like, I'm gonna have something out within the next week or two. I'm gonna start getting content out again, but for now, that's all I've got. Like I said, um, I'll include the Discord link in a pinned comment and within the description of this live stream. So give it like 5 minutes and then refresh the page. Otherwise, peace out.